Hello, I have with me today two Yamaha digital pianos from the Arius range. I have the YDP142 on my right and the YDP162 on my left. Now both of these pianos have been hugely popular with beginners, both adults and youngsters, for a number of reasons. The main one being price, I would say, because both of them are well under £1,000. The YDP142, £579 currently, YDP162, £719 at the minute. I say at the minute because the prices do go up and down a little bit. Take a look at the ePianos website for the latest deals and offers. Delivery is fast and free across the UK. Now some other reasons why they're both very popular is they give you an awful lot for your money. They're the same length as a real piano. This is 88 keys long. The keys are exactly the same size as you find on a real piano. The most important thing though is they are what we call weighted keys on them. Now this means when you play the keys there's resistance in them. It feels just like a real piano to play. It's not like a keyboard or an organ where there's no resistance in the keys. These give you a real piano feel, and most teachers now say that is crucial when it comes to the development of muscle memory in the fingers when you're learning to play piano. Other reasons are there's no maintenance involved. These pianos will never go out of tune. Being digital instruments, all you do is plug them into the mains and start playing. So they never go out of tune, you never need to call the tuner. Other terrific thing is you can wear headphones with them. And this means if I'm playing the piano, I put my headphones on, then no one can hear me play the piano apart from myself. So if you're practicing in a small house or if you've got to think about the neighbours, you can wear your headphones and play and you won't disturb anybody else. Another reason they're really popular is the physical size and weight of these pianos. They're nowhere near as big as your traditional piano, but crucially they don't weigh very much either. Now we quite often deliver these pianos and people put them on the top floor. They put them upstairs or in a flat up staircases. It's no trouble at all to move them around because they don't weigh very much. You won't of course knock them out of tune, so you can have them in a bedroom or in a basement, move them around day to day. They're not such a fixture like the old-fashioned pianos used to be. So if you're looking at possibly buying one of these two pianos, what I'm going to do is try and explain to you the differences between them and what exactly it is you get with the 162 and your extra 140 odd pounds. We'll start off with a play test. I'll just play them on ordinary piano at the same volume so you can hear what they sound like. I'll start with the 142. And now the 162. So they both sound terrific. They both got very nice piano sounds on them. But for me, the thing I noticed immediately, maybe you noticed it too, was the YDP162 is a lot louder and a lot richer sounding. This is of course because the speakers are in there. This is the main difference I want to talk about. 20 watt speakers. There are two of them in the YDP162 and there are only two 6 watt speakers in the YDP142. Now this isn't necessarily an absolute deal breaker with the 142. 6 watt speakers are fine, and as you've heard it's a nice piano sound. But 162 with a more volume, there's more range for dynamic range as we call it, where you play light and soft. You can play nice and gently and then give it some more oomph and more welly, play louder. There's a bit more range for that with the 162 because of those larger speakers. So for me, that in terms of volume and sound, the 162 is the winner there. Now the other really noticeable difference is how the keys feel on these two pianos. They're different. They use different key mechanisms. On the 142, it uses what we call the graded hammer standard. Now the graded part of that means that down at the bottom the keys are heavier and as you go up they get lighter. This is exactly what you find on a real piano, but the 142, it's the lowest, the cheapest type of key mechanism that Yamaha use with any weight. And I have noticed that the keys, they're not quite as firm as they could be. They do wobble a little bit, particularly when you give it a good thwack on the keys. Now it's not a deal breaker, I don't think. I've had many students that have used the 142 and they progress nicely, but when you compare them, which is what we're doing here, and you play the 162, this uses the next key mechanism up, and you can feel it immediately. It's smoother to the touch all the way in its travel from the top to the bottom. It's a little bit harder to press, it's smoother, and it feels nicer to play. It's more like a real piano. That of course is reflected in the price. That's part of what you get for your extra money. So I think the 162, the key mechanism on there for me is quite a leap up compared to the 142. Now while we're on the subject of keys, this is another thing you'll notice. Again, even a beginner will notice this immediately. The tops of the keys, you run your fingers over the 142 and they have plastic tops, and your keys, when they get a little bit sweaty, they tend to stick a little bit. Now again, it's not a total deal breaker, but on the 162 they use synthetic ivory. This is very clever. It makes it feel like traditional ivory, which of course isn't used anymore, and it means your fingers slide a little bit faster. When you're playing fast passages, as you will as you improve, the 162 synthetic ivory is a little bit smoother to the feel, and again a bit more like a real piano. So the key tops on there are better than the plastic ones on the 142 in my opinion. Now in the physical cabinet design of the two, there's barely much difference. The length is the same, the depth is the same on both of them, but if you look at the front panels here, the 142 is pretty plain, but with the 162 they've incorporated a flat bit at the front, probably to house those larger speakers in there, with the Yamaha logo, and it gives it a bit more of a classical air, a bit more traditional looking, which is quite nice. Apart from that, the weight is slightly more on the 162, only 4 kilograms more, so it's not much. So physically there isn't much between them. Now you can buy either of these models in a range of different colours. There's the rosewood, you can see both of them are rosewood behind me. You can get them both in a matte black finish, actually called black walnut. There's also a light cherry colour as well, but this is where there's another difference. YDP162 you can also buy in a polished ebony finish. This is shiny black, in other words. It's actually quite a serious finish. It's 52 layers of polished ebony lacquer on here, and you can see around the edges it does give it a very nice look. It's a bit nicer than the matte veneered finish, but bear in mind it does cost about an extra £200. Now just going through a few things that are similar on these two pianos. They both have 4 levels of touch sensitivity. Now what's that all about? I'll give you an example. If I've got a youngster that's coming for lessons with me, they tend to be very timid on the keys. So I put the sensitivity on the soft setting. This means you only got to play the key slightly to produce quite a loud volume, rather than a timid fingers on the keys doesn't produce much volume. So that's nice to be able to adjust it. They both use the Yamaha pure CF sampling to produce the sounds. What does that mean in English? It means the sound you're hearing is taken from a real concert grand piano. Very cleverly done. And again, these are serious guys at Yamaha that sample these pianos. They even go so far as to record the sound of the strings in a real piano resonating off of each other. Very clever stuff. So both of them are at the height of technology really, and use all of Yamaha's heritage of making real pianos in these two digital ones. They both use 128 note polyphony. Now what's polyphony in English? Well, it's the amount of keys that you can play at the same time. And if you're a beginner, you might well be thinking, well, I've only got 10 fingers, surely I can only play 10 notes. It's not quite true. When you start to play piano and you use the sustain pedal, you can play a note and it continues playing as you add another note. Now you can quickly build up the amount of notes you play, and what starts to happen if the polyphony is quite low is the initial notes will decay and drop out. You don't want that. You want them to keep on going like they do on a traditional piano, and that's what you get with these. If the polyphony is well over 100, which they are, then for a beginner that's perfectly satisfactory. These both use 128 note polyphony. They both have 10 voices on here as well. Voices are the sounds that the pianos make. It's not just the Yamaha concert grand piano. There's a slightly brighter piano, there's strings on there, harpsichord for classical pieces, So there's a few different voices to play with, but really they're designed as pianos, and that's what they're used mainly for. You can record on both of these as well. This is brilliant for beginner, particularly if you're having lessons. A teacher can record, let's say, a left hand, and you can play the right hand part over it. Both of them have recording facilities that are the same. Now if you look below, both of these pianos have 3 pedals, just like you would find on a real grand piano. The only difference is on the YDP162 they are gold. So in summary, what piano should I buy? Well, for me, 142, very good value for money, but it's definitely a budget piano in my opinion. The key mechanism on there is perhaps a little bit loose and rattly. Now it's not a deal breaker, as I said before. Indeed, I've had my own students use these pianos and they've progressed very nicely. But for only £140 roughly more, the YDP162 goes up a notch in terms of quality. That key mechanism on there is better, definitely. Smoother, more solid to the touch. The speakers on there, much larger, 220 watt speakers, makes it much smoother sounding. It also gives you more dynamic range for light and shade. So for me, the 162 is the winner. Might be a case of you get what you pay for, but £140 difference I thought was pretty impressive. So feel free to ask us any questions. You can either leave them in the comment section below or send us an email via the ePianos website. If you're looking at buying your first piano or keyboard, do send us a message and we'll try and make a video. We can compare models, we can spotlight certain features on certain models. Just get in touch. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.